morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is such a great pleasure to be here. I like that school from way back. You are the last generation that you will hear Holocaust survivors, because we are getting old and there aren't many of us left. So please watch carefully. You're going to watch a film for 13 minutes. Watch very carefully because I referred to that in my speech. And then I hope you have many questions that I will be glad to answer. So thank you again for being here. a pleasant film to see in a beautiful spring morning. However, it gives you an idea a little bit about the time and camp. I come from Czechoslovakia. It was the most wonderful democratic country, such as the United States. No discrimination whatsoever. Unfortunately, that came to an end as well. The irony of it all, what happened, the propaganda what happened, it was unbelievable. And unfortunately, it's blossoming again. That's why it is so important for you young people to hear what terrible, what anti-Semitism, discrimination, intolerance vis-a-vis anybody of different color, different religion, what it can have, what it can bring. So watch it, listen carefully what can happen. We had, as I said, it was just a wonderful, wonderful country. And that unfortunately ended when Hitler came to power. He had a notion, he said he does not like, he hated Jews, but he hated other nationalities as well. He said that after he is finished with the Jews, he was going to kill all the Slavs, the Czechs, the Russians, the Poles, anybody. He wanted a reine Rasse, a pure race, just German. You will hear me mention a lot about SS men. They were the elite of his army and police. But to be an SS man, you had to be a child of a German father, a German mother. If one of them was not a German, was a Slav or a Mongol, they couldn't join that group. So you will hear about that as well. The first country that Hitler occupied was Austria. They welcomed this sort of because it was a German-speaking country, and after the occupation, every Jew, pertaining to Jews only, they had to wear the Star of David. You saw it on the film. One on the sleeve and one on the back. So we were branded. You were seen, whoever is a Jew. Many of the students asked the question, why did you have to wear it? How would they know that they are Jew? They had such immaculate numbers. They knew exactly who was a Jew. They knew who was half a Jew, a child of a couple, that the father or mother was Jewish and the other one was a Gentile. They knew exactly how many Jews lived in every city, in every town. The next country, Hitler said he only wants one part of Czechoslovakia, of the country I was born. That was called Sudeten. They were predominantly German-speaking. He said after he'll take that, he will not go any farther. But he did not keep his promise. They took that part and they annexed it to Germany. So we were happy, but he did not keep his promise. In March 1939, he just marched into Czechoslovakia, and he himself, Hitler, came to Czechoslovakia, settled himself in the palace. And he called it a protectorate. What was he was shielding us from the Russians, which wasn't true. It was just his excuse. After the occupation, every Jewish man from the age of 18 to 45 was taken to slave labor camp. They were not wearing a uniform, they were just wearing their own clothes, and they went ahead of the German army wherever they were going to go. They did the hard work, they built the roads, they built bunkers, they were exposed to all kind of things. A very, very small amount of people survived after that. After the occupation of Czechoslovakia, we Jewish children could no longer go to school. I met my friend Olga, and she said, "Judy, why weren't you in school today?" "Because I'm Jewish." "But you were Jewish yesterday." She could not understand what happened all of a sudden. As I said, the men were mostly taken away. Any of them that was still home, any doctor, lawyer, teacher, they lost their job, they could not go to work anymore. Or women as well. They had, when they came in most of the countries, as he went along, the first was Austria, then was Czechoslovakia, then was Poland, then was Belgium, then was Holland, then was, he occupied, and he had an unbelievable strength, but besides that, there were people in those countries that helped him. He alone couldn't have done it had he not gotten help from the individual countries as well. In most of the countries, after he occupied, the Jewish people had to leave their home and they were put into ghettos. Most of you people, most of you students know what a ghetto is. But those that don't, what they do, they take one part of the city or the small village or the town and gather the Jews. They have to leave their home and they live in the very crowded places, 30 to 40 people in a house. And from there, they took people to go to work. But up until 1939, what he did, that was predominantly in Poland and in Belarus, he had a certain amount of Jews that had to be killed every day. So how? At this point, what he did, the SS men did, let's say they took a town. Well, let me get back to my family. I come from a family of 6 children. My older sister was married and she lived in my hometown. She had a 16-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl. I was 14 years old at the time of the occupation. Her husband was taken to slave labor camp and she was still able to stay in her home. My next sister in line was married as well, but she was married to a man who was from Poland, which was actually, the borders were very close. So my sister Charlotte lived about an hour by train from my house. However, it was a different country. It was Poland. She had a 3-year-old little girl and a 7-year-old boy. And the town was about 15,000 inhabitants. Out of that, there were 5,000 Jews. What they did there, at the time, they were occupied in 1939, at the end of 39. What they did, they took all the Jews in that town, made the men dig a mess. It's not working now. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Anyway, can you hear now?
Yes.
Everybody can, okay. So what they did, they took all the men from that town, made them go out of town, made them dig several graves. And the following morning, they gathered all the people, which my sister and her family was part of it, made them get undressed to utilize the clothing, even the last clothing that they wore. And they shot them individually by the brutality. First they shot the children, then the fathers, and at the end the mothers. And there are thousands and thousands of mass graves all across Poland and in the Ukraine and Belarus. That happened starting in 1939. And they did that till late in 1942. And by then, the Germans said, this way of getting rid of the Jews is too slow and too expensive, because the bullets are too expensive for each individual person. So what did they decide? The higher echelons, they went to the suburbs of Berlin. It's called Wannsee, in a beautiful, beautiful little villa. I was there in 2014, and they were eating at a dining room table and drinking wine, and made a plan that they have to find a faster way. So the faster way is to build crematoriums and build gas chambers so that they can kill thousands and thousands of Jews. As you know, 6 million Jews were killed through Hitler era. Out of that, 2,002,000 were killed by a gun. So very little, there are hardly any books that are being written about it. But there was a French priest, Father Dubray. His grandfather was drafted as a priest from Paris, and he died. He was killed in Poland. And when his grandson graduated college, he said he was going to find where his grandfather was killed. And that's when he came to Poland, and he found, and that's what he's doing now. He's finding more and more mass graves, how the Jews were killed. Now, getting back to my family. My following brother-in-law was married as well, and he lived in Belgium. After the occupation, he too was taken to a ghetto. Subsequently, he was able to smuggle himself and his wife and the 2 children out. He was able, with hardship, after being in a jail for a long time, he was able to smuggle himself to England and join the Czechoslovak army and fought against the Germans. My sister-in-law, with the 2 boys, was able to go to the south of France. And there, she was hidden at a Gentile family, non-Jewish family, and had they been caught, they would have been executed as well, just like the Jews. But they did it for the bottom of their heart, helping human beings not to be killed. There were many in Poland, many in Slovakia. They risked their life. There is a place in Israel called Yad Vashem, and they honor these righteous Gentiles. But unfortunately, not enough. Then my next brother, my only lucky one of my family, was fortunate enough to leave Czechoslovakia in 1939, and he came to the United States. And my father and my family could have come, all of us, because my grandmother lived here in the United States, my uncle, my aunts, but my father was an optimist. He said, Hitler will never reach that. He is just a loudmouth, and it's not going to happen. But unfortunately, it did. My next brother in line was a dentist. He was taken to slave labor camp, for 3 years in the German camp, subsequently caught by the Russians and sent to Siberia, from one hell to the other. I was the only one at home. It would have been a chance in the beginning in 1939. They were taking some young people, a few thousand were taken from Czechoslovakia, and they were sent on the kinder, it was called kinder transport, children's transport, young, a little older, up to 14. Maybe I could have gone. And my father said, Judy, try, you will save your life. But I wouldn't have left. I did not want to leave my parents. Again, coming back to us, we were still home. In our territory, we were still able to stay home. Incidentally, you just read Elie Wiesel's book. He too, in his town, they still let them stay in their home, not in a ghetto. Subsequently, they did. But every day, different rumors. Today, they are taking children away. Today, they are taking older men away. Constant fear. My father has a general store. It was really like a small department store. We sold everything. We sold food, we sold liquor, we sold tobacco, everything. They put in a commissar, they put in some men, and my father could no longer go in. The money, the proceeds from the business was going to the government. We had a farm. They took all the horses, the cows, everything away. They left us just one cow. And as long as we were home, my mother was able to save up some food and send it with a peasant. We paid him to take the train because we Jewish people could no longer go on a train or on a bus. We could not leave our town without permission, but even then nobody gave us permission. So once a month, my mother was able to hire somebody to bring some food to Charlotte up until she was taken away. And one day the peasant comes back with a satchel of food, and he tells my parents that he could not deliver the food to Charlotte, but he witnessed her execution. So he was there when she was being shot into that mass grave. You are so young, and I hate to tell you, but what this priest is doing now, he is interviewing the people that are now 80 and 90 years old, Gentile people, and he asked them, what did you see? Because what happened? As they shot the people into the mass grave, some of them weren't even dead yet. So what happened? They came out, the smell of it, and the people, the people that watched it, there were small children. So they said that they are sitting in the trees and they're watching what the Germans did. Well, so when he interviews them, he has an interpreter with him. He says some of them don't even they don't want to remember. That's how terrible it was. So again, we are still home. But that ended as well. It was in April 1944. It was 6:30 in the morning. There were 2 SS men and 2 Hungarian gendarmes knocked on our window. You have a half hour. Take all your money, take all your jewels, and enough food for a day. My father was a very religious man, so he took his prayer book. My mother didn't want to go. She says, I don't want them to kill me. I'm going to drink something. I said, Mommy, you always have time to die. So I convinced her. I took my manicure set, that was my last birthday present, and we started marching. We lived 6 kilometers, 4 miles from town. We came down to town, and we were told to go up to the cemetery. And my father said, how convenient, they're going to kill us there. They don't even need to bury us. That didn't happen. It was snowing, it was cold. We were sitting on the graves of our ancestors without any shelter. Within that 1 week, they said, 1 person can go home and bring more money and more jewels. It's going to save your life. My parents didn't want to go. I went home. I had a beautiful German shepherd. His name was Harry. I said to the woman that was there, where is Harry? He stopped eating and he died. But I wanted to take what we did. We knew that they're going to take us away one day, so we hoped that if we have some jewels or gold, that we'll be able to save our life. That we had it hidden in the ground because they came in every day to the houses to look what you have and whatever of value they took away, the Germans. I dug it out from the ground and I told the woman that worked for us, make a dough, put the gold in the dough, bake a bread, and bring it to the cemetery. She did not do it. Hopefully she was able to save it for herself. We were there on the cemetery 1 week. After that, we were taken in a regular car to, they don't tell you anything what's going to happen. So they took us to Hungary, to a small town called Mátészalka. They gathered the whole people in one corner of the town. There were little houses. We were about 24 to 30 families in one house. And we were there, but we were still together with our parents, and we had shelter, and we had a bathroom, and every day we got a bowl of soup. But then we were there for 6 weeks. We young people were cleaning the ghetto, we were helping to cook, and we did whatever needed to be done. But every day different rumors. We don't know what's going to happen with us. All we had is that one clothing that we were left from home. One day we were told to go to the railroad after 6 weeks. And we were taken, put into cattle cars, as you saw those red cattle cars. 65 to 75 people in one car. We could just stand, just like sardines. That's how crowded it was. They gave us an empty bowl to use as a bathroom and one filled with water. The cattle car is very dark. There is only a little tiny window where some air comes in. And they closed it with an iron bar. We waited till the following morning and we started moving. It was 4.5 days, the most horrible 4.5 days. The stench was impossible. The water was used up. The children were screaming, they want water, they are hungry. The first night, a man dies. What do we do with the body? Put him in a corner. There was no corner. The stench is horrible. Women are giving birth. It's dark. They're helping. But what was the worst? People went crazy. They went berserk. So they were starting to scream and hitting others. And the SS man said, if that doesn't stop, we'll take all of you out and shoot you on the spot. So we had to tie their mouths, tie their hands, and keep them quiet. People were dying. The people were, in a way, people were happy that if one dies, you could at least move them away and maybe have a little more space. It was unbelievable. One day, it was a beautiful morning like this morning. It was the 21st of May. The doors open and we see men in striped uniform running back and forth. And they scream, round, out, and they pushing old people out and just throwing them on the floor. And they give us orders. They say, line up in row of 5. Women separate and men separate. There's my mother, my sister, my aunt, my niece, and myself, and my aunt's 3 little children, 2, 4, and 6. Then there is a men's row, where is my father, my brother-in-law, my nephew, my uncle, and another man. And the men in the striped uniform are running back and forth, looking at us, 14, 13, 18, looking at young people and telling them, 14, 14. What do they mean by 14? He sees a woman with a baby in her arm. She says, give the baby to your mother. Give the little girl to your mother. Stand straight, smile, take off your kerchief. He looks at the man. You are a tailor. You are a shoemaker. You are a doctor. You are a musician. What do they mean? There is a big sign that says, Arbeit macht frei. Work will liberate you. We asked them, what is that? They said, this is hell. And you stand in line and wait. You see SS men with a German Shepherd on a leash. They are not giving any orders. They just walk around. Out comes this tall man with the shiny boots and a rubber stick in his hand. This is Dr. Joseph Mengele. He was called the Angel of Death, and he deserved that name because he was to determine who shall live and who shall die. Are there any twins in this group?
Any twins? Jojo.
There are a few, I'm sure. Well, thank God you're born in this country and in this era. Anyway, he announced, are there any twins? Step out. And they do. And so then he keeps an eye on that. Now he came to our row. He points to my niece to go to the left, to me to go to the left. And the rest of them are marching on. As I pass my father's row, he put his hands on my head as he did every Friday night when he blessed us. And he said, Judy, you will live. These were the last words that I heard from my parents. This was the last time that I saw them. We went to the left and they went to their death. As when we went to the left, we came into an enormous building, about 4 times the size of this room. We are all young people. The oldest person might have been the age of your mother, 31. He did not pick us to live. He needed people to work. He said, if the war ends at 12 o'clock, at 11:55 he will have time to kill the rest of us. But he needed people to work. After that, he will kill them. Anyway, we were told to get undressed. We came into that building, walked up 3 steps. We had to get undressed, completely naked. And in that room, there were chairs lined up like this, and behind each chair is a man in the striped uniform with a machine to cut your hair. We had to get undressed. If we had any jewelry, you put it in a dish. And we had to sit down. We all had beautiful hair like you young ladies. They cut our hair completely bald. They gave us a little piece of soap, and we stand in front of a room where it says bath. In our case, it was water coming down in the shower. In our parents' case, it was gas. After we got through the shower, we were given a gray dress. As you saw these women in the picture, they had buttons, they had a belt, they had a kerchief. We had none of that. All we just get is a plain gray sheet, no underwear, and a pair of those big wooden clogs, wooden shoes. And we stand in line and wait, again in a row of 5. I took one look at my niece. Only my niece, my nephew, and myself were taken from that whole family. 24 members of my family were killed that same morning. And we stand and wait until the entire group went through the shower and cutting the hair. Now we are in Auschwitz. We see men there is a group of people in the striped uniform playing classical music. I said, what is that? What is going on? We found out very well. Yes, coming back to the 13. If he sees a girl that is tall and healthy looking, he will say, how old are you? If you said 13, you're going with your mother. If you said 14, you were taken to the work. Because he wanted people to work. And he said that he has time to kill them later. Anyway, now we are waiting until the entire group goes through the shower. After that, we start walking. We are in Auschwitz and we are walking to Birkenau, which is 1 hour walk. A little bit about Auschwitz. The entire camp is surrounded with barbed wire. If you touch it, you get electrocuted. There is an SS man with a gun on every 6th row and an SS woman on the other side. There is a man with a machine gun up on a tower pointing at you. There is no way to escape. We came to Birkenau after an hour walk, and we were put in a large barrack, which was 1,400 women, young women in there. And we were put into those shelves, as you saw. There was one on the first floor, then on the second, then on the top. Only the face sticks out. And the ones that are on top have air, otherwise only very skimpy. And we were put in there. After about a half hour, there is the most horrific smell of burning hair. So we asked, what is that horrible smell? It's choking. They told us, these are your parents burning. But they went through the gas chamber, and immediately they were put into the crematorium to get burned, their bodies. It was the most horrible, horrible thing all the time. A little bit about life in Auschwitz. You are being woken up at 5:30 in the morning. You're being counted. You got to go out to be counted. Roll call. So there is no way of escaping. So she died overnight. So you have to drag the body out to be counted. Or they went crazy, so they were taken away, and the girl in charge will say so many were taken away. Every other day, Mengele comes to do other selections. If he sees a mother and daughter, he will take one away. 2 sisters, he never wanted to be 2 sisters, he took one away. He comes, if he see anybody pale, he's going to take the person away. So we used to pinch our cheeks in order not to look pale. Anyway, if he sees he asks, are there twins? Are there any pregnant women? You're going to have a better life. He takes them to the hospital. They were the only way they were better off because they slept on a bed. But the experiments that were done on the pregnant women, the fetus, they were doing all kinds. On the twins, they tried to change the color of their eyes. They did all kinds of operations without any injection, without any sedation. Very few people survived. Very, very small amount. Now, we were there, we were in Auschwitz, yes, we have roll call twice a day, morning and night. The food, after we stand roll call, we get a little bit of black water. It's supposed to be like coffee. Nothing all day long. In the evening, we don't have a dish, we have nothing. So they give us a pot of soup, which is made of turnip, and it's thickened with some bran. So you take a sip, you give it to the next girl until everybody has one sip. Afterwards, if there is any left, you get another sip. Once a week you get a little piece of bread 4 inches square. You could eat it up in a minute. You are so hungry, but you don't because you hold on to it. Suppose the next day is nothing to eat. We were there for 6 weeks. It was horrible hunger and the smell of new transport. There were days that 3 or 4 transports were coming in. One day, after 6 weeks, we were taken to the shower. Yes, the shower is once a week, but with big trepidation. If he picked too many people and he didn't have a place to send them, they never came back. They went to the gas chamber. After 6 weeks, we were taken to the bathroom to take a shower, and this time when we came out, we were given a small blanket. What a treasure, a blanket. We did not go back anymore to the camp, to the barrack. We were taken to West Germany, to the town of Gelsenkirchen. It took 1 day, full day travel by regular train. When we came there, we were taken about an hour walk to camp. We lived in tents. We had to, there were 2,000 girls that were taken. 1,000 of us was working outside, building the roads, building bunkers, loading ships, unloading ships, day shift and night shift. The other half, the other 1,000 were working in ammunition factories, working on ammunition for the war. Day shift and night shift as well. There we already got a bowl and we got a spoon. We got a little bit of water, a small bottle of water a day. That water was supposed to be for drinking and for saving it to wash that one dress that you had. We got 1 meal a day, whether if we work day shift or night shift. We got 1 bowl of soup, and we got 1 boiled potato and 1 slice of bread. In the beginning, it was once a day, later once a week, and then later, as the war goes on, less and less. We were so hungry. We had to work very hard. We walked to work, and the Germans were saying, these are Leute from a Hirnanstalt. These are people from an insane asylum. How we wanted to tell them, we are not from an insane asylum. We are victims of your regime. We didn't know what's happening, whether the war, all we heard is his voice through a loudspeaker. I am conquering the world. I will be in New York one day shortly. So this is what we heard. We didn't know what's happening. We had SS men and SS women with a gun over us, beating us. If you didn't work hard, you got beaten very hard. And the hunger was incredible. We worked every single day except Sunday. Sunday, they took us to a park, and the men were sitting in the bleachers, drinking beer and hitting us with a rubber stick. There wasn't a week that the girl was not, and only over the eyes. There wasn't a week that one of us didn't have a blue eye. That was their entertainment. We were there many, many months, and many people died. Every day they came a little wagon to pick up some dead bodies. After many days, many months, we were taken to the next big city, which was Essen. There, those that worked outside were working this time inside in the ammunition factory, and the others were working out. This time I was working in the ammunition factory. What we did, in the morning we came, or night, depend on the shift. We put in heavy pieces of iron in the oven, and when it got hot, gave it to the next one. What happened to me there, a piece of iron happened to fall on my left wrist, and if you cannot work any longer, you're being taken away. So I said goodbye to my niece and to my friends, and I went to sleep. In the middle of the night, somebody taps me on the shoulder. It is SS woman Erika. She said, "Komm, du Kleine." She called me little one. And she put me in her car and took me to the hospital. I said, where are you taking me? She said, "Don't ask questions." They put on a cast, and on the way home from the hospital, she stopped off at the factory and she asked the foreman, his name was Mr. Miller, to get a letter. She told him, "We need this girl. She speaks many languages. When the work has to be done, and that the Russian girl, the Hungarian girl, the Czech girl, the Polish girl that didn't understand German, she didn't know what to do. So I was the one called and told her what to do." So he gave her the letter, she handed it over to the Obersturmführer, and I was saved. Now, let's assume I would have died, they would have gotten along. But she saved my life. Without her interfering, I would have been taken away and killed. But that was Erika. She was the one that helped save my life. After that, I went to work, but that was no problem. We were there yet many months. But while I'm at it, you are so fortunate in this country. You have wonderful schools, wonderful teachers, and learn all you can. In your case, you will utilize it for your career and for your happiness. But learn all you can. Nobody can take the knowledge away from you. In my case, it helped me save my life. We were there yet many months, and many of us that were dying, only about a half of us was still alive from the 2000. Now we were told to go on the death march. It was literally a death march because, first of all, it took 3 weeks for us from Essen to walk to the next camp, which was Bergen-Belsen. Then we were so emaciated, as you saw, skin and bone, hardly strength to walk. We started walking. What was the worst? If there was a mother and daughter, and one could no longer walk, and she just lied down to die, we had to drag the one that was still able. We were hoping that she will make it. And that was the hardest thing. If the SS man would have the heart and shoot her, and so that she could just leave the body of the loved one. It sounds inhumane in the 20th century that human being could be that brutal and that mean. Anyway, after 3 weeks, we finally made it to Bergen-Belsen. Anybody that survived Bergen-Belsen is going to live forever. The pictures, what you saw, the last pictures, that was Bergen-Belsen. Dead bodies wherever you turned, mountains of dead bodies. There is no more place. There was some of these shelves were still there, but they were all filled. So all you do is sit on the floor. The dirt was impossible. Food, she gives you one bowl of food a day. But today she's standing and distributing it in this corner. So you stand on line and wait, and hopefully by the time you reach there will be anything left. But next day you stand in line there as well. But she decides she is in a different corner. By the time you get there is no food left. If you want a drink of water, you stand in line and hope that you can get a little water. By the time you get there, you're being pushed away. It is just, you're struggling for every breath of air. and for every little bit, and the hunger is so bad, all you think is food. If you could only get one more morsel of food. My niece is completely jaundiced, yellow already. She said, Judy, I am dying. Could you get me one bite of food? But the SS women announced, if anybody is still strong enough to carry the bodies to a mass grave, is going to earn a bowl of soup. I found another girl, my niece couldn't walk anymore. That's how she was already weak, very weak. So the girl that I got, we carried the bodies, and bodies can be so heavy, bloated, the stomach is bloated, the arms are breaking. At the end of the day, we got a bowl of soup and we divided it. After that, I didn't see my niece Ida anymore. So I said, oh my God, she left, she didn't want me to see her dead. Anyway, we were there yet weeks. There were days that we didn't see any SS men, and SS women. So what did we do? We ran to the places where they kept their food, hoping that we can steal some. But we didn't know that they had German civilians there, and they were shooting us with a gun. We were there wanting to die because we could not endure the hunger and the filth. We had lice from head to toe. Since we left Auschwitz, we did not have a shower. Some of the dresses, sometimes in the camps, we could wash by hand and sleep overnight just with a blanket. Anyway, one morning, it was a beautiful morning like today, it was April yet, we see soldiers in a different uniform, and these were British. We were liberated by the British. They said, you are free. I spoke English, so I said, are you sure that you are not Germans disguised? They said, no, you are free. They gave us all the food they had. But that was the wrong thing. We could have eaten a rock. That's how hungry we were. What happened, they gave us everything they had. So many people died because we could have eaten anything. The stomach could not tolerate it anymore. The first 2 or 3 days, more people died just from overeating because they couldn't tolerate it. Now you are free. So what they did, they took us away from that camp, they burned everything down, they converted churches and schools to hospitals, and they were trying to cure us. There was no antibiotic. We had typhoid, that was called fleck typhoid. The entire body is covered with gray spots, very high fever. There was no medication for it. If you got it, you maybe make it while the Germans were there, maybe 2 days, and then you just die. I didn't see my niece anymore. How am I doing? Anyway, now we are free. They took us to hospitals and they said, after you recover, you could either stay in Germany in a displaced person camp, or you can go to your country of origin. But there was a Swedish count, and he invited many thousands to go to Sweden. Yes, when I woke up in the hospital, my niece was alive. What a wonderful thing. So she chose to go back home, hoping that she'll find her brother, which unfortunately he was killed 2 days before liberation. They were liberated by the Americans, that camp. And I chose to go to Sweden. I came to Sweden. It took one whole year to cure me. I was very, very sick. After I was cured, I went to school and I learned my profession. I was a technical writer and designer, and and I was in a free country. And you, ladies and gentlemen, are fortunate to live in the most wonderful country of the world, and you're fortunate to have the finest schooling. So learn all you can. And if you see any injustice in school, on the street, don't just say it doesn't concern me. Report it and talk to it. And again, I have all the reason to hate. I was robbed, my family was taken away, my family, my parents. I lost my youth. I have all the reason to hate, but hate doesn't do any good. It only hurts you, it doesn't hurt the hated one. Try to utilize your energy to do good things in life and be alert and see to it. If you see any injustice, write letters to congressmen, do something. It should not happen again. Unfortunately, it's blossoming again, the intolerance and the hate. So I hope that you will have a wonderful life, and you have many questions for me, I will be glad to answer. And I know that you will create a better world, promise. And when you come home, hug your mother and father and your grandma and grandpa and do all the good things you can do. And I know you will. Thank you so much for listening.
So I told Mrs. Altmann that, thank you, first of all, thank you. I told Mrs. Altmann that we took a day and created some questions that you may still have that remain unanswered. We used to have 4 microphones, we're down to 2. So if you have a question that was not answered by Mrs. Altmann in the last hour or so, do you want to come forward? I know you have them. There we go. Many of you can come up. It doesn't have to be one person at a time. So if you have a question that wasn't answered, bring your card up. And you can stand right here by the stage and ask Mrs. Altmann your question.
How did you spend your birthday after the whole situation of being rescued from Russia? How did you spend your birthday after the whole situation and being rescued from the Russians?
I treasured every moment of life. What happens when you are exposed to such situations, you treasure every minute of life because it can go in no time. So you're very, very happy for everything. Have any more questions? Thank you. You have your own.
So what are your views on politics now that you realized how evil some could be?
What are your view on politics and politicians now that you realize what evil
Well,
politicians?
I do not like to talk about politics, but if you see anything, because when you're old enough to vote, read all about the people that are running for because your country is as strong as your leader is.
Okay. Ryan, you want to pass it to one? Thank you.
Do you have any nightmares about the Holocaust? Have any nightmares about the Holocaust?
Nightmares. Do you have any nightmares?
Oh, indeed, I did. My nightmares are so that I'm out of the country and I have no papers to come back. I lost my papers. I can't come back to America. So I used to scream. Another living nightmare, not dreaming. When I came to this country, when I saw a policeman, anybody in a uniform, I was so frightened. My husband was teaching me how to drive. And he said, "Judy, you're doing fine." There was a police car stopped in front of us. I said, "Okay, Kurt, I'm getting out. You drive." He said, "You're doing fine." No, I was so frightened of anybody in a uniform.
What was your attitude towards God and religion?
That's a very good question. Very few people ask that question. That saved my life because there were days I said, dear God, how can you watch that? How can you see it suffering so much? And then I said, the sun came out and said, thank you, God, you let me live another day. And I prayed to him, dear God, one more day and one more day, and that's what it is. And I still believe that I made it is what God will, because I had a mission that I could tell people what hate and discrimination does. Thank you.
Do you feel that your time in the camp was a waste of part of your life, or do you feel that it serves some sort of purpose later?
That is also a very, very good question. It was a horrible way to start your life. It is. However, I appreciate things in life, and I realized that every person can make a difference. And by surviving it, I'm utilizing it to educate people what hate can do.
Did you make any friends in the concentration camps?
Indeed, it was more than friends. It was a family. At this point, you know that you don't have anybody left, right? So your friend, the few of around, you worry about them. If you were sick, you give them a bite of your food. And not only that, the gums were bad because we had no nutrition. So what happened? If you had a slice of bread, you could bribe somebody who is not a Jew and who distributes the food. If you give her the bread, but that she will give a little bit more food to that girl, to that sick girl. So you become a family, and you call each other sisters.
Did you encounter any Nazis, Germans, or others who tried to help you?
I'm sorry.
Did you encounter any Nazis or any other Germans that tried to help you within the camps?
Well, I tell you, within the camp, no. Because when they saw you, they saw the SS man or the SS woman, and they could not interfere because they would have been, so they couldn't. But on the death march, as we walked and we were so emaciated, some Germans were throwing a little piece of bread and you picked it up. So they did try to help, but they were afraid to even help the inmates, but we were called inmates, Häftlinge in German.
You said that your brother lived in the United States. Did you ever see him again when you came back?
Some of my friends?
Yeah, and your family?
Yes, there were quite a few. I'm sorry.
Your brother that came to the United States.
Oh, my brother. Oh, yes. Well, when I was liberated, I remembered he lived on Rochambeau, 3133 Rochambeau Avenue. But I addressed it to Brooklyn. I thought all of the United States is Brooklyn. So the letters kept coming back. And finally, I gave it to a British soldier. He gave it to the British Red Cross, and they sent it to the American Red Cross, and then I found him. So after he got the real address where I am, he sent us a package and whatever, all the goodies we shared with everybody, a piece of chocolate or anything like that was a treasure.
Did you ever lose hope you would be saved?
Did I ever?
Lose hope that you would be saved?
Very, very often we said we will never make it. And they emphasized it. They said, at the end we will never let you go. That's one thing. In Bergen-Belsen, in the last camp, there was one barrel full of sliced bread which was poisoned. And Hitler's order was, if you see that our ally, somebody is going to save them, before they even enter, give every prisoner a slice of poisoned bread. All he wanted is that they should find dead bodies, not alive. And as you saw, they were all skinny, they were all bone, just bones held with skin around.
Do you feel that if the Holocaust didn't happen, the world would be worse or better?
If what? You don't have to talk to me.
Do you feel that if the Holocaust didn't happen, the world would be worse or better?
Yes, indeed, because so to begin with, so many millions of people. There were more millions of all nationalities were died, but people wouldn't have seen all this misery that what hate can produce. But unfortunately, it happened. It would have been better had it not happened. And any war is not good. But you are aware. You will tell your children and grandchildren what you heard. Don't let it be forgotten. You promise?
Yeah, I promise.
And all of you promise, tell your children, tell your grandchildren that what hate can do. And if you can help, it's very contagious. If you're good, it's contagious. I'll be good, and that person you do good, they'll do good, so there will be a good world. And thank you for listening, and thank you for being here.
Are there any other questions? Yes, come.
So, what is the greatest thing that you learned from the Holocaust?
What is the greatest thing that you personally learned from experiencing the
What I
Holocaust?
learned is to have compassion to another person, help them wherever you can, and be alert. And if you can, to escape was impossible. It was absolutely impossible to escape. And pray to God that you should make it. Of course you can. You will create a better world, right? You will. And you love your parents and love them because and the teachers and honor everything. Okay? Appreciate every little thing. That's why I can't throw out a piece of bread. You come to my house, you will find little pieces in the oven everywhere because it is such a precious thing.
Thanks.
Thank you for asking.
How did you feel when you were freed from the camps?
How would I feel it like? How I felt I was really fortunate to make it. Naturally, suddenly you are alone. You know you have no more parents. You lost your home. You lost your friend. You lost your youth. But you start off again. And every human being has dreams, and you can achieve them if you just pursue it. You don't ever give up. You see, you were fortunate, you made it, and you will make the best of it. And we did. When we came here, we had absolutely no help at all. And we said, but we are healthy, and fortunately, I was super fortunate because I spoke the language, and when I came here, I was able to get a job because I know the language. So learn all you can. Whatever you can is going to be the best for you. And happy.
Hi, have you ever visited your hometown or a concentration?
I never went back home. I'll tell you why. Because I went to Sweden, my niece went back home. When she came to the town, our house was completely leveled. So, and she did not stay. Her house was still standing, and she went to the big city. Our town was a small town, 15,000 inhabitants. So I didn't go back. However, I go back to Czechoslovakia, to Prague. And I love that country, of course. But nobody loves America like we survivors do. Because we know this is the best country in the world. All the freedom. And God will help. It should be like that all the time. And you have a wonderful future.
Thank you.
Wait, I'm sorry. Have I, I'm sorry, did you repeat?
Have you looked yourself at the mirror before getting in the concentration camp?
There was no, that is definitely the first question I ever had. Did I look at the mirror?
Oh.
That is absolutely the first one in,
Did you
in
hear
30
the question? Did y'all hear the question? No.
Have you looked at yourself in the mirror before getting in the concentration camp and then after?
Oh, before I knew what I looked like, of course, but afterwards I did not, because to begin with there was no mirror, but I looked at my niece and I looked, she looked terrible. She was a gorgeous girl, and so did it all. Can you imagine no hair, God, skinny, he was skeleton, thank you so much. But that is a very good question, I love it.
Can we possibly make a change to anti-Semitism?
Well, unfortunately, I have to say that it's blossoming again. And I don't know why. Like any hate, I don't know why any hate. What is the difference? God gave us all, so we are the same person. But these are the mean people. They think they're superior over us, or whoever over us. So I wish we know what to do and how to do it. There, you have very intelligent people.
So, like, what did you like to do before the Holocaust?
After the Holocaust?
Before?
Or before, I wanted to study, of course. I already spoke 5 languages then, and now I'm speaking 7. So I wanted education. My father was very interested in that. I had a German teacher from the age of 3, an English teacher at the age of 10, and I everything you can learn. And how about you? What do you want to do?
I want to be a
Teacher?
teacher.
A teacher. Wonderful.
All right, at this time, I'd like to ask Sophia and Cameron and George, come on down. Oh, do you have more questions? Okay, we're gonna have to, these are the last two.
How old were you when you got out the camps? How old were you when you got out the camps?
When I came, I went to Sweden. I learned another language and I learned my profession. I'm a technical writer and designer. And I learned another language. So when I came to the United States, I was able to get a job because I spoke the language. And then I met my husband, and I met him, and 6 months later we were married. I have 2 sons. One is a doctor of chemistry, and the other one is a businessman. I have 2 granddaughters. Both of them, one is 28 and one is 23. And I have to brag, I was gotten a doctorate degree from Fordham University for what I'm doing. So, now you can call me Judy the doctor.
Have you met any other Holocaust survivors?
Many of them, of course, but unfortunately many of them are dying. We used to have, belong to an organization, Holocaust Child Survivor of Connecticut, and there are very few of us. Only 2 of us speak now. We had about 7 speakers. Now we have only 2.
What was the what was the first thing you did after the Holocaust?
The question I said, are we going to be free from now? Because you were so, you didn't believe that you were really free. The first thing we ate, that's what we ate. We always thought about food. Food and food again.
Okay, so I was telling Mrs. Altmann over the last day or so, the kids came up with an idea of showing their appreciation. So if we could have the people that are so involved, Mr. DeSimone will call your name.
Sophia, Jorge, Horberth, Michelle, Tracy, and David. Come up, please.
What a beautiful, oh my God.
So we had everyone write a little note for you on the Post-its, and we put them in a heart shape so that you can read them.
Thank you so very much. I'm going to have it in my room and paste it on the wall, and everybody will see it. Though it'll take me a few days to read every one of them. Thank you so very much.
So as a one last gift for Mrs. Altmann, can you all please rise? All right, so we're going to do our best to try and recite it together. Remember, we're not saying 2019, we're saying 2019. Nice and slowly, this is our vow to Mrs. Altmann, because she has charged you, the next generation, to stop the hate, to increase the tolerance, and to stop indifference. When you see something, you must say something. It is your responsibility as a human being. Okay? Think we can get it done? This is our gift back. She just gave us the most tremendous gift she could give us. This is our gift back to her, okay? On 3. 1, 2, 3. Rippowam's class of 2019.
Who lost their lives to bias when hatred won out over love. What has been the faith of a very a friendly and leading, and why we must never forget.
Okay. Well,
thank you all very, very much. Make it. You make me smile. The most moving thing I have ever gotten in all the years that I'm speaking. Oh my God. We are a witness in the Thank you all very, very much. I wish you all the best. I think that, you know what I do? I take it off my Facebook and I'm hard about that. It's going to be on my, oh my God. Thank you very much.
I want to tell you what Mrs. Altmann just said. She said never in her 25 years of speaking has she gotten anything like this. So well done, guys.
Anybody in the first, let's say, the first three rows, or the first 2 rows, all the way